Hey yo, what it do, good peoples? What's the good? It's your boy, Kevin Wright, aka Kev on Mission, coming in here to you with another video. And I want to say this, as always, if you see anything that you really value, if you see anything on this channel that encourages you, speaks life to you, I would like you to do a few things. First, I would like you to like the video. Second, I would like you to jump into the comment section. Let me know what you like. Let me know how this video is blessing you, how this video is encouraging you, and we can continue our conversation. Also, if you have not already, I would like you to subscribe to this channel. And in addition to subscribing to this channel, ring the bell on the right corner so you can get all the notifications as to when new videos do come on to here. Because as you can see, I am consistent with putting videos out at least twice a week. Sometimes it's more than that, but I have made it a point to be consistent to put out content at least twice a week. So you will be seeing more from me on here. Now, before I dig into my main topic, I want to take a really quick second and give a really big shout out to my boy Blaine Young, the director for DC Chi Alpha. The last video that was posted here 2 nights ago was me preaching at American University's Chi Alpha movement, and you saw his heartfelt introduction of me, which does not go unnoticed by me because I don't have too many people who are willing to put themselves out there and speak highly of me in a way that he did. I can count on one hand the number of people who have done so in that kind of a public setting. Anthony Saladino's one, Blaine is another one, and I can think of my boy Braden Venus, and there's my boy Donovan Charlo, who always checks out my video. We talk pretty regularly. There's a few people that I know that have really went in on the affirmation game when it comes to affirming what God's doing. So I want to give him a shout, and it was really cool getting to spend time with meeting Reverend Natalie. She was leading worship, and seeing Alexis again, who was the staff person who made sure everything was okay for me the last time I was there. And it was cool meeting new students too, and even seeing students who were there in October recognized when I came through a couple days ago. And as one student, Austin, who I got a chance to meet, made the comment when it was time for him to leave, and I was like, well, I hope I run into you again. He was like, I believe we will, because I'm not a stranger to this movement, and I don't think you'll be either. And I believe that to be true. We'll be working out, and plus Blaine and I are friends, as you saw. If you didn't see the video, go look at it, then you'll see. Blaine and I are friends. We have made a point to encourage one another, speak life to one another, get time, and hang out, all that good stuff. So I know DC Chi Alpha will be seeing me some more because of the fact that, again, it's based on friendship. It's based on where we're at in ministry and other things, and people in ministry need friends. Don't let nobody lie to you and say that people in ministry don't need friends. We need to stop this individualist stuff that we've gotten from our Western culture, to think that we can do everything alone. All right, I digress. I'm going to get into what I would like to talk about, but first I'm going to get a sip of my tea. Nice and hot too, because you know, evening time to relax and settle down. We got to get that tea. If you don't drink no tea at nighttime, I would encourage you to start, because it'd be helping for real. All right, now let's get into it. So before a couple nights ago, I recorded a video talking about how Christians should respond to this movie Turning Red, which actually raises a larger point that a lot of times we as Christians, we're more reactive than proactive. And to be completely honest, that's really not cool for several reasons. As I stated in the last video about turning red, every time you draw attention and you rant and you rave and you tell people not to go see something, only thing that's doing is one, giving Disney more attention, and that's giving Turning Red more attention. And the very people who you're trying to discourage from going to see it are going to do just that. Get their curiosity piqued and go out and want to see it. And because it's on Disney Plus, it ain't like it's difficult. And I'm also going to be clear again. Like I said, there are things in there that, one, like I said, disrespect, appropriate imaging, things like that, and also the very real witchcraft concerns. These things are not things to play with. I don't understand how we've gotten to a point where we as the body of Christ can turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to things like that and think there's not going to be any consequences, because there definitely is. And I came across a post earlier today that confirmed what I was already going to do, because I had already determined that I was going to record a video about why we need to be more proactive and not reactive. And the quote said something along these lines. It was from a gentleman named Ryan Lestrange, and he talked about the fact that basically the church gave up the Median Mountain, and so as a result we have a bunch of witches and warlocks irritating our children. What we need now is to believe God to raise up writers, creators, storytellers, actors, musicians, a whole 9 yards, that are going to use their gifts for the glory of God. And so that way they can stay in just the same way Walt Disney and all of them have done what they've done, and it lasted long past them. We as the people of God are storytellers, are creators, are actors, writers, directors, script writers, content creators, like all these folk. We need to believe God, and there are plenty of them out here now, and I'm going to talk about some of them some more, because I said that every time I talk about things like this, I'm going to talk about them. And so let's talk about the reality of the statement, how the church has given up on the Median Mountain, because I know for a fact I was talking with a friend of mine briefly earlier today, and I told him I was going to be recording this video. Matter of fact, it's my boy Donovan, who we often converse about some things. And so I was telling him, for example, right, you have Christian hip hop in that really started to explode like in the late 80s, early 90s, and it's out here on the scene now. And it was crazy because a lot of the churches and people who like back these events, have concerts, was churches from our mainline evangelical majority white culture peeps. Believe it or not, they're the main ones. And then you would also sometimes ask the questions like, that's why if you ever read Lecrae's book, hold on, if you look at Lecrae's book, I Am Restored, where he talks about his journey through wrestling with some really serious issues when it came to his faith, and how the Lord used that process to build him back up into a man after God's own heart, you will see he mentions some of those things. And one thing he didn't mention, and one thing I remember being said by a woman by the name of Katina Stone Butler, were on the social media threads, and the question that was begged to ask is, so where was the black church at when it came to Christian hip hop? Because you really didn't see a whole lot of that. Now I will give one disclaimer. I'm not saying this is the entirety, 100% all the black churches didn't do that, because I know for a fact in my local town back in '07, there was this really dope Christian hip hop concert over at Woodbridge High School, which had folks like The Truth, Cross Movement, a whole bunch of peeps over there. And the church that put it on was called Hope Glow Empowerment Center. Pastor Levantia Stevens and his wife. So I know that there are churches that are represented within the black church that did get behind Christian hip hop, but as a whole, that wasn't something you really saw. It was a lot more of the mainline evangelical majority culture, white culture churches. And that's why, and that's just one example of where what would have happened if like the whole church would have got behind it, just like the church, not just mainline evangelical majority white, but like every churches and both sides. If everybody would have got behind, we would still see a lot more going on. And I think now things are starting to shift in that regard. But that's just one example. And another example I would like to mention, because and many of us who are in our 40s now, there's a lot of us who we didn't have supportive family members when it came to us actually stepping out there and using our gifts. Some of us, you had parents that didn't understand the gifts, they didn't understand the desire for creativity, and no matter how well intentioned it was, the point of this particular video is the fact that you have many parents who downplayed the creativeness of your sons and your daughters, and you told them it was stupid. You told them it was worthless. You told them the main thing they need to worry about is finishing school, getting a job, and making money. To be clear, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a job and a career. However, a lot of these folks, these creative gifts are the means to earn more than enough for the income. If we actually learn how to get behind folks, there are many folks who are making a genuine livelihood off of genuinely working hard and honing their creative craft. We have had many parents downplay, we've had many parents take people's stuff as kids and degrade and belittle and say it was stupid and say it's a waste of time and throw stuff away. I've heard horror stories and all that kind of crazy stuff. I am fortunate to the fact, while I'm not going to pretend like everything was just like this clear road, but I am thankful as time went along, I didn't have anything of mine trashed. I am thankful that I can say that, but I know for a fact that there are many people who have had people speak down to their creative gifts. I would be bold enough to say that there are many parents and maybe even grandparents now, if you're watching this and you happen to be in that demographic, I would be bold enough to say some of y'all need to go back and give y'all grown children and y'all grandchildren and give them an apology and say that you were sorry for neglecting what it was God gave them because you didn't understand how important it was at that point in time. I would be bold enough to say that because that is definitely a part of why. And I'm thankful, again, that's not the entirety, because I do know some parents that have supported their kids, gotten behind their kids, and there are some who didn't support it first, but then they had to see the light as time went along, whether it was through persistency or whether it was through the doors that were opening and it just couldn't be stopped. Whatever the case is, I'm thankful for those of y'all that persevered, because that's definitely a factor. And and again, we're like, the other part of that post was, we're playing catch up now, because even in a general fact, that's a reason why I say a whole lot about why we need to support our creative peeps. And also, I'm going to be clear, like I did the last time, and I'm going to get even more specific because I've seen some conversations that have warranted this type of an explanation. There is a very fine line between having a preference and that preference turning into prejudice. For example, I am recording this video with my iPhone. I like the iPhone. I plan to stay inside the iPhone family. And I also used to be an Android user. I don't have no hate towards nobody with Android, but I have no intention on going back to Android. Right? Now, because I prefer to have an iPhone, that's what I'm going to use. There are many people who prefer to have an iPhone, just like there are many people who prefer to have Android. Those are preferences because there's enough folk in the market that want both, that both of them things gonna thrive. The problem is a lot of time we the saints try to be funny and try to use that exact example that I used from a comparison note and try to make it seem like that's the reason why we don't support our fellow creators. There are plenty of creators. If one creator doesn't fill your palette, there's another one out there that will. If one creator is not to the point where you feel like you can support because of whatever's lacking, there are plenty of them that are. Please don't use that tired tail excuse talking about what you don't prefer to not get your tail out there and look for some folk that's actually out there making it do what it do. One, for example, who I didn't mention last time was Jenny Weaver. She's a worship leader and she's a content creator. She also creates some dope clothes and some other stuff. If you're on Facebook, look up Jenny Weaver Worships. That's her public profile. I'm sure she's on Instagram. Look up Jenny Weaver and you will find her stuff. She has a really powerful testimony. She used to be deep up in witchcraft and the occult. She was a witch and God took her out of that whole lifestyle. And now she's singing and worshiping and actually even creating kids content on YouTube. And it plans to come out, I think, early next month. I know it's on its way because I saw it the other day. So look her up, Jenny Weaver Worships, and you will see. That's another one. And I mentioned my boy Blaine, who oversees Kyle from DC. It's really cool what God's doing in their movement. People like Natalie, who lead worship for Chi Alpha and also lead worship at National Community Church in DC. And I think about people who you wouldn't know them well because her mom, Francina Smith, goes to my church and she's an associate pastor. But her daughter, Gabrielle Smith, is a dope vocalist and a gifted worship leader, and she's making her way out there. And so I just want to take a second to even speak to those who are in the process of making the moves, because that's what we need to do. We need to be proactive in championing the folks, and we need to learn how to get behind the folks that is out here making it do what it do. And like I've mentioned before, Anthony Michelle Saladino, who oversees Kyle at Virginia Tech. I've mentioned that I'm affiliate staff with the crew at George Mason University, so the whole Mason crew family, of course, they count. I go to Christ Chapel in Woodbridge, Virginia, with pastors Bob and Wendy Griffith, brand new, coming up on 7 months here, and God's using them to bring some really cool things into our church family, which involves Francina Smith, who's a associate pastor there. Let me think. There's a lot of folks that are out there. And I mentioned, and before, I'll say it again, Tiffany Bird Harrison and her husband, Joe Harrison. Tiffany is a YouTube content creator. Joe's a music producer, rapper, MC, all that. Again, hip hop. I'm telling y'all, we need to get on these things and we need to learn how to support these folks. We need to be proactive when it comes to getting behind these folks, because we cannot complain and get upset, because that was the main thing I also want to say. As I prepare to take it home, I want to say this because I remember in the 90s, all right, I remember when family friendly literally meant that there was no cussing, there was no sexually explicit stuff, there was nice and wholesome stuff. If anything came on TV that was even close to sexually explicit, anything that gave the idea of sexually explicit, it wasn't allowed on TV until after 9 o'clock, when people knew that the children who ain't had no business watching was in the bed, sleep. Matter of fact, there was a thing up on the TV that said, "It's 9 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?" I remember those days when media and all these other outlets watch out in that way for families. Now here's the thing, we've had a whole generation where that's coming on. Like, we have a whole generation of students in college, the folk I ministered to, that did not come up with any of that. There are folks who have graduated college since the time I've finished high school and would be all that. There are folks who are out of college. They didn't grow up with that. That particular aspect is something that is actually long gone. And that's an important part to bring to the table, because we need to understand that it is not the responsibility of Disney, it's not the responsibility of Pixar, it's not the responsibility of Marvel, Sony, it's not the responsibility of any of them to create the type of content that we of the body of Christ want to create, that's going to uplift the kingdom of God and going to make the person of Jesus famous and going to be used to draw people to the person of Jesus. Guess whose responsibility that is? That's us. And it's also our responsibility. If you're not a creative type, well, I won't get into that now. If you're not one to write films and movies and books and all that stuff, you still have a responsibility to support those folks. And there's other things, like if you're a teacher, you creative, you create all the time and figure out ways to teach that curriculum and do all that stuff. So like that creative aspect goes way across the typical stuff. But specifically when it comes to storytellers, creators and all that, like we have a responsibility as a body of Christ. If we want to see some things that are different, we need to start supporting those who are making it do what it do. And everything that involves supporting does not involve money. However, if you have it and you're in the position to give, that definitely needs to be done as well. Again, like I said the last time, there are things you can do for free. Like I say every time this video comes on, as I take it home, I'll remind you, if anything in this video blesses you, first of all, take the video and share it with somebody else. That's just a click, share it with somebody. Also, make sure you like this video, make sure you hop into the comment section, leave some comments so we can interact. Also, subscribe to this channel. Also, ring that bell so you can get these notifications. And also, you can send me an email at kevonmission2.0@gmail.com so we can even go further and talk about other ideas. But the goal right now for this particular thing is we need to learn how to put folks forward. We need to learn how to speak up, and we need to learn how to make these purchases, and we need to learn how to spread the word on those who are out here making it do what it do for the kingdom, so we can start being proactive about godly, wholesome content instead of being reactive about every time somebody does something and we get upset about the images that are being shown. But we got plenty out here that are doing it for the fame and the glory of Jesus, and they're not getting the support that they rightly deserve. And I will continue to make that point known until many others are too. I'm going to continue to make that point known along with the many others that are, until there's more that make it known, until more things start happening to see that type of change. All right, now, talk to y'all soon. Y'all know what to do because I already said it. Peace.